All right, that was a song written by Mike Berger Scoggins of the Great Sweet Magnolia Band from back in the 70s, an updated version of it recorded by John Good and Friends recently. And I want to welcome everyone to Occupy Little Rock Radio. Yay, all right. Thank you, thank you.
We've got enough people for a mic check.
Okay, mic check.
Mic check!
Okay, they work.
Can I say something right quick?
You may. Let me introduce everyone if we're going from left to right and upwards to downwards. I'm your host, Greg Deckelman. We have Chris over there. Say something, Chris, and check your mic there.
Mic check.
All right. We got Mel. Hey,
hey.
Mel. Mel's here. Kaitlin's here.
Hello.
Hey, Kaitlin. Caleb is here.
Power to the people.
Crystal's here. And
hello.
She's saying hello. All right, we got her to talk. Whoa, watch out. Mark your calendars. Okay, Caleb, I'm going to be really kind because I like you, and today you were so awesome at the Monsanto rally that you get first dibs. Go.
You are most kind. I have to say this because I know everyone in the booth will appreciate it, and I know that our listeners who are dedicated to the movement will also love this. But today, at the Monsanto March, I got to mic check a crowd for the first time in like a year.
Yeah!
That was just an amazing feeling. It was freaking great, and if you weren't there, then you missed it.
There you go.
Well, I'm telling you, that was a great rally. I would have liked to have seen a few more people, but I tell you what, sometimes quality trumps quantity.
Well, you
and we had a quality crowd there.
Oh, you got to consider
There's
you're
about
going up
100 people.
against.
I mean, it wasn't bad.
You're going
plus.
You're going up against Riverfest too. So,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people.
Well, actually, I counted 225 at the top.
Well, yeah, at our peak, yeah.
Yeah. So.
The
that's
National
close
Park
enough.
Service would
That's
have counted 45.
Yes.
Right?
The IRS counted many more than that, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
You know. So.
Oh, yeah.
And were they in the crowd? Did anybody spot the IRS agent, by the way?
I might have.
/Fed/ deputized somebody.
Well, I look at the boots first before.
Officer friendly.
Officer friendly, yes. I shook his hand. I said, "Thank you for coming." And he was like, It was pretty cool.
Yeah, they don't know how to deal with militant happiness.
I'm telling you, there was some militant happiness today at the state capitol. If you didn't go, you missed out. I'm sure somebody got enough footage to post 3 hours worth of content with commentary online, and I hope somebody does, because there was some great music. There was some great speakers today.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of truth spoken out there, and I was proud to be associated with it. I know everyone, I speak for everyone in this room, and we were all glad that we were there.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad the fact that the organic farmers were there,
Oh,
too.
they had the list of all the local growers.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
That was awesome. That was totally awesome.
Yeah.
I tell you, they were wonderful, wonderful folks out there today. I was proud to be there, and I'm glad it went off really well. Today on Occupy Little Rock Radio, we're going to remind you that to pledge, go online, KABF.org, use your smartphone, make a pledge. That's what makes this radio station go.
Oh, yeah.
$5, $10, $20,000, we don't care, just something in there. Chris is going to give us an Occupy update. We're going to have a City of Little Rock update. I'm sure Kaitlin will hook us up with that. I'm going to have a Free and Equal update today. We're going to have a Slight AIM update. I talked to Trey on the phone. Maybe he'll call in. And if you want to call in, it's 433-0088. We'll take your pledge and your comment and any question that you have, and you're welcome to ask us about anything. We're going to have a Bankster update. We're going to have an Adam Kokesh update. We're going to have an oil spill update. We're going to have an Our Daily Rage update, which is the new podcast du jour. And if you haven't listened to that, I'm telling you what, you will laugh your living butts off at Allie Taylor and Michael Brown. How come they didn't do this before now? I'm telling you, they're knocking it out of the park. To be honest with you,
I thought they were going to do that right after we had our eviction, because I think they were talking about it.
Yeah, well, I don't know how long that might be true.
Allie probably, I mean, with all the women's rights protest stuff she's been doing lately, she probably just got caught up in all that and didn't think about it to come back.
Yeah, and Mike tours.
Yeah,
well, this is true, but it's just a once-a-week thing that they sit down and hash out. And they talked a long time ago, she told me today and the other day when I talked to her, about They talked a long time ago about doing it, and they finally got around to it. I just didn't know how long they'd actually been seriously talking about doing it. But we'll get to that and stuff and everything. So that and many more topics today on a jam-packed 16-hour marathon session.
Oh, yes.
All right, Chris, turn it right over to you.
This week in the state of Occupy, while Wall Street insurance companies cancel or outright abandon insurance disaster claims, Occupy and established mutual aid groups around the country are bringing relief to Moore, Oklahoma, the tornado disaster area. Occupy Sandy, Occupy Nat Gap, and other occupies in Oklahoma have coordinated an relief effort for the Moore community and have ignored all wave-offs by the county officials as well as CNN and Red Cross. Apparently they are still falling far behind like they did in Sandy. Right now they are coordinating an online mutual aid access and coordinated direct volunteer and material support for the rebuilding and more mutual aid.
Also, in case you didn't know, Occupy Oklahoma set up a wedding registry on
Yes.
Amazon.com.
Yes.
It's I think it's OPOK and Moore, Oklahoma are the two names on
Yes.
there.
Right.
And it's a wedding registry. It was the easiest way for them to say what they needed out there in disaster relief. You can go find that on Amazon.
Please go online if you feel that you need to have more direct assistance and have your money actually doing something. Please.
Who all besides Thomas Hudson went in the crew that went over there the other day?
I'm trying to track down the
Occupiers. Well, I haven't talked to Thomas since the day he was leaving.
Yeah.
And stuff. They had a lot of first responders in their group going
Yes.
because they had experience in Joplin, Missouri, and one other disaster.
I believe Joplin, Missouri is also sending some aid.
Yes, they did.
Oh, yes.
Joplin sent quite a few people over. They sure did.
There's been groups come from around the country, so.
Oh yeah, there's so many people that stepped up to volunteer. They had to stop, create a whole centric system of people just monitoring the crews and bringing them in, and so that they have the support system that they need on the ground in the local area once they get there, so that they operate smoothly through this whole thing.
Occupy Sandy has sent some coordinators to Occupy Norman and Occupy OKC to help in the coordination effort for all the Occupies, the volunteers that will be coming in nationally.
Occupy Norman, I got an email into them, and I haven't had a chance to look back. I'm sure I must have been responsive to them about the free and equal stuff, but to let them know that if there's anything else we could do and stuff, to please let us know.
Also, no, we should thank the Freedom Riders who came in and scared off Westboro Baptist Church from protesting.
As the mutual aid support network is growing, just like this radio station, Democracy Now!, and all the other listener-supported radio stations, please remember this is mutual aid. It's mutually aiding our community to find out what's going on. So please remember, if you want to pledge or sponsor, please remember that you are actually involving yourself in this community in a mutual aid effort, not charity. Okay, moving on. At this point, the City of Little Rock is functionally obsolete when it concerns the corporately run city administration.
Really? Wow, okay.
Thanks to federal congressional defunding of matching funds programs for infrastructure and critical services, there has been a lot of buzz on MSNBC and a lot of what they call the financial trading channels, saying that right now Axiom, Walmart, and Stevens Group are bitching and complaining and complained about Little Rock having to become an embarrassment and a threat to their own investments. This after raiding the city coffers.
No, wait a minute. Let's get this straight for our listeners. Go back to the beginning of this story.
Okay.
The matching funds for infrastructure to the cities all over the country has been yanked.
Yes.
And built into the budget for the city, if I remember correctly, is these matching funds to get certain things done.
They just
Critical
voted on
services.
some of it on Tuesday,
Correct.
actually.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well.
And they had to pony up more money, did they not?
No, they cut it back. They said the highway department was matching higher. I don't know if they know about this yet, but
really?
yeah, they cut back what they
Wow, we
were
need
what
to
they were
call
going to
the
put
mayor.
up for I believe the Wright Avenue overpass and a railroad overpass on 65th maybe. mean?
Yes, 65th
That's
Street,
right.
right
And
there.
not to- and not
At
to
University and 65th, they've been planning that. for
Right.
a
They
while.
were originally going to have to match 1.5 million, and it's down to 500,000, or at least that's what they think. So they dedicated 500,000 to something that apparently now is not going to happen.
Yes.
Wow.
Well,
Well, my point about, or my question about that as well is that these things are done quite a distance. A bigger project is planned a little further out. Are they possibly allocating funds to a project that's already the feds say, okay, we cut you off. Everything we told you already can have, you can have, but anything past this date, we're not giving anymore. Is that what's happened?
I need to
don't know.
clarify. This
Yeah.
is
That needs to be clarified.
this is sequestration master funds.
Right.
Basically, this is the sequestration, and they're having to basically rebuild from scratch. But in the meantime, Axiom, Walmart, and Stevens Group are complaining so much about the fact that there's a lack of infrastructure and an embarrassment as to that, meaning that they basically made it very much more difficult on the city board to actually effect any of these changes.
Axion, what infrastructure do they need besides a high-speed connection to the internet to intercept all of our information?
Well, getting their workers in from, like, a lot of the workers.
They're right
can
next to the
Yeah.
freeway, duh.
I'm aware of
Yeah.
that, but when I'm aware of that.
We all know that.
Well, maybe our listeners don't know.
What I'm saying is that's the reason they would give you. I don't know, I mean, the whole reason, but that's the reason they would give you, is that they've got to get the people coming in from, like, Bryant and Benton and out in
Oh, yes.
Podunk, nowhere,
Yes.
all that.
But
Conway.
let me
Yes,
let me
Conway.
go ahead and
That doesn't
finish with
count
this.
Podunk, no.
Basically, they have come to the conclusion after raiding and trashing the city, they fear that they must move their either regional or headquarters from Little Rock after basically, turning our nice city board of directors and our mayor into a pack of monkeys.
Yes,
That's putting it nicely.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I'm being for 3 decades, by the way. They have complained that the private schools and public works are a joke, so are considering moving regional and corporate headquarters to other cities. Now that may mean they may move it within Arkansas, or they may move outside of Arkansas. Basically, they're going to leave city of Little Rock bereft of tax revenue and a trash city government. Basically, this is from a very, very obscure write-up.
Well, they won't be the first and last company to ever leave Little Rock.
No.
So, but I'm personally not going to boo-hoo about a bunch of identity thieves in my mind.
Well, Axiom, yes,
And
but Walmart is.
I'll mourn for the people who lose their jobs.
Yes.
I'm not going to mourn for the loss of.
Well, their
corporate.
technical people will go with them probably.
More than likely.
As someone who has family and friends working for Axiom, I can guarantee you they won't move out of here. At least a lot of them. Some of them might, but
Yeah.
I doubt.
This is something to keep in mind. It seems to me that we have some corporate schizophrenia going on here. And the reason I choose that word is because these are the entities that believe that public works and public infrastructure and things that we all pay for in order to further the common good in our communities, they don't believe in those things. They call that socialism. And
Well, it's
So-
all about the profit. If
Right,
they're not
so-
making the
Well,
profit, they're going to
it's
somewhere else.
socialism if it comes to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
It's wonderful if it goes to them.
Yeah.
But see, that's the reason I say corporate schizophrenia is there is something that they do not understand, and they ask for two things that are mutually exclusive. And it doesn't occur to them that they're mutually exclusive, and that's this. That's that they want to have this great city with all this great infrastructure to have a good place to headquarter their companies and to have a good place for all these people that they employ to come to work, but they rail against having to pay for it. And then when they get their way and they don't have to pay for it and it all falls apart, then they complain that it fell apart when they're the ones who asked for it to fall apart. And so they want to burn everything and then wonder why nothing's left after they burn it. And that's why I call it corporate schizophrenia.
That sounds like corporate normalcy to me. I'm sorry.
It is insanity.
Yeah,
I mean-
Boeing did that to Seattle and Everett. They did the same thing to Seattle and Everett when they moved to Chicago.
And-
So
and
this
I-
is not anything.
Nothing new.
I hate to speak on the other side, but You know, I don't agree with a lot of it, what Axiom does, and what they're doing to the city is obviously messed up. However, I would like to point out that they are the largest employer in the area, and they do actually pay well and give benefits. Now, they have had to do cutbacks as problems happen with the economy, but they mostly come back from that. And so, there are two sides to this as well.
Yeah, there's a drawback to all
To me,
this.
the way I see what you said, unfortunately, is that Auschwitz was a very small town, and the largest employer
Dude.
was.
Okay, that is so far
It's
out
awful
there.
early in the
I'm
program
sorry,
for the
so
Nazi
just because
reference.
you're the largest employer doesn't give you a free pass.
No, it doesn't give you a free pass. What I'm saying is it will be a very, very, very large loss to the area.
Yes.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Is this definite, like, that they definitely decide they're doing it, or are they just...
No, they're threatening to.
They're threatening to. But in Better Hope's department, the AG McDaniels has aggressively assisted Mayflower in getting the spill designated as a Superfund cleanup site.
I think that's going to happen. Does anybody else in this room think that'll happen? I think it'll wind up being a Superfund
yeah,
site. I do.
excuse me. Since Exxon has increasingly showed no interest in compensating Arkansas or Mayflower for the spill damage, no official effort to shut down Pegasus until its rerouting is complete has many wondering when Maumelle Watershed Basin will suffer a spill. Yes, that's right. Pegasus Pipeline is up and running again.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, I think, did that happen today? Because as of yesterday, it was not running. And it was definitely reported in a whole bunch of different places that it was not running, and they weren't going to let them reopen it until they inspected the parts between
Exxon
the
said they were
watershed.
ready, but yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
And
but
I know that there was a meeting with Central Arkansas Water, but it seems that nothing actually came out of that because Central Arkansas Water wants them to move it out of the Lake Maumelle watershed.
Well, they were going to give them 5 years and be kind of easy on them to get that done, provided they go inspect this before they turn it back on.
Yeah.
well,
And if they turned it back on without inspecting it, then they're just thumbing their noses and saying,
exactly.
you know, screw
Exactly. Few authorized officials have expressed any concern over the loss of local drinking water. Yet, growing numbers of community voices are getting ready to publicly denounce current officials in the area.
Can you imagine what would have happened if this had happened in the Maumelle watershed and it got into
You
the
would
lake?
have at
Can
least.
you imagine?
We would have hundreds of thousands of people who were ill.
Yes, yes, and also.
They'd have to shut off the spigot. We'd have to figure out how to get water some other way.
Yeah.
Would you drink that water at that point?
No.
No, there's absolutely
Wouldn't that
no way I
open
would.
the city up for lawsuits, Caleb? To say, oh, wait a minute, you know, we gave you this drinking water when we knew it went into the lake.
So many lawsuits, so fast, that it would be like getting slapped in the face, and you'd be slapped so hard that spit would fly out of your mouth, and then because of the velocity and the force of you getting slapped, gravity would make the spit fly around and slap you in the
A
back of the head.
tsunami.
Yes,
A
all right.
tsunami.
That's how many lawsuits would come out of that.
Well, I would definitely
I would
agree
have
with.
passed the bar.
Oh, I would say definitely you'd have the city of Little Rock. You would have the bottling and distributors that are around here.
The city of Little Rock is are not even all that comes out of that lake.
That's
the surrounding counties use it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
North Little Rock.
Yeah.
So it's that watershed serves. Correct me if I'm wrong.
At least 600.
I was thinking I heard that it was close to 700,000.
Yeah, it's over 600,000
It's a
people.
very large number.
Like, hello.
And that's, all drinking water, all the major businesses around here, so
Yeah.
the people
Some
who
of the
commute.
best drinking water
Yes.
in
It
the
is.
United
We are,
States
yes,
of America.
we are ranked number 2 in the U.S. in clean water.
Yes.
After who?
That's
I don't know.
I would probably think it's probably Lake Chelan up in Washington where they have huge restrictions on any kind of water vehicle on the lake, as well as the fact that the Saudi prince that basically likes to vacation there made it so that they couldn't actually have they have barriers that don't allow. They literally engineer that city to where there's no runoff of oil at all from parking lots.
Are you saying a Saudi would know something about oil?
Well,
Saudi would
the
know
Saudi
about
prince
oil, that's true.
the Saudi prince that owns Lake Chelan and Chelan City, which I am actually very familiar with that city, is actually the #1
Okay.
city, and it's a resort town, by the way.
well. I can tell you this too, that Lake Maumelle for a long time has been a top 10 water supply in
Yeah.
cleanliness.
Oh, yeah.
And the only time that it ever dipped was just a few years ago when they had one bad test come back.
Yeah.
And then they went right back and tested it again, and it was okay. So they're not sure if it was truly an anomaly. Mac Miller told me this not
Yeah.
long ago.
Well, there was
And
a
so-
time a few years ago.
To the people who don't know, Mac Miller is one of our occupiers who is also an environmental geologist.
Yes.
There was a time a few years back, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, that I noticed, because I drive up to Russellville every once in a while. A lot of times I'll go the back way through Highway 10. And there was I think it was in wintertime that I noticed that the lake levels were very, very low. In fact, all those coves that you normally drove across were just mud flats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if low water levels might have been what caused.
Yeah, the drought. Yeah. Yeah, we've had.
It's
I don't know if
possible.
it wasn't a drought. That was the thing. It was on.
Wasn't- it wa-
Well,
They
Maumelle
draw it.
is a dammed lake. It's
Yeah.
a man-made lake.
And
So
the mean
drought
depth.
level wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean the lake would go down. The lake could go down because they allowed it to go down.
Also, for about the last decade, due to mainly fracking in Greenbrier, we've had several earthquakes, which could account for an anomaly in it as well.
Lake Maumelle is actually on the other side of the Arkansas River
Yeah.
from the fracking areas, or the majority of them, as far as
Well, I
I
submit
understand.
any earthquake can open up a gas pocket.
Yes.
Oh,
because-
yeah.
because-
Yeah, I'm just wondering because
Yeah.
water
Well,
ice
actually,
is
it was
lowest
fecal
level.
material that was the contamination.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, I
yeah.
seem to remember
Well, if the
that
lake
before.
level was down, then the normal amount of bird poop and what have you
Yeah.
would be
could-
concentrated.
Yeah.
Very much so, because Lake Maumelle is only a 25-foot mean depth lake. That's
Yeah.
very shallow. And they told them, the head of Central Arkansas Water, who had a conversation with a really good one, by the way, at the quorum court meetings back in January and February, told me that back then, he knows that they tried to get them to dig the lake much deeper when they were building this thing, but of course, nobody wanted to go to that expense.
Nobody
because,
wanted to spend
you
the
know,
money.
nobody wanted to spend more money because they can't see further down the road than the 10 or 20 years they'll be in office collecting the bribes.
Cha-ching.
You know, so had they built it much deeper, that this lake would be good for 300 years. And as it stands right now, they're looking at 100 more years. And they might be able to extend it past that in the lifespan of what they think this reservoir. In
Unless,
the
of
meantime,
course,
what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Unless, of course, Delta Timber goes into the watershed, and then we got like 10 years left, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just moving.
I really don't think that's gonna happen at this point, fortunately. I could be wrong, but I don't see that getting done. There was
No.
too much of a stink race.
But the good news is the AG is actually helping us out
Good.
Yes, he is.
And Mayflower as well, as long as Tar Sand keeps helping them out as far as informing the community, and the fact that Mayflower is actually informing itself about tar sands and the potential of a cleanup, and whether this be another Love Canal town or not.
I actually have more environmental news when we have time. We don't have
Okay.
to do it right now.
All right.
Okay.
Lastly, March Against Monsanto had 70 plus marchers, and 150 plus. You know, I'm going to defer to Greg as far as the peak. On the Capitol steps, highly charged chants and street marching up and down Capitol Avenue all the way to Broadway. On the way back, luckily, we had an actual LRPD officer, vehicle number 09C188, was courteous enough to chaperone us back on the return of the marchers back to the Capitol.
Wow, you guys played nice and stayed on the sidewalk too, right?
Pictures of the
Never mind,
concert.
I'm not going to ask you to incriminate yourself. I'm sorry. My bad.
Yes, there is the right to remain silent.
Blue streets.
There we go. Yes.
Nothing like about 1 minute's worth of civil disobedience to make your whole day, huh?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you know,
Oh, yes.
It's like, I recommend it for everyone.
But it was being there and marching and here and you know, actually walking down. You know, that crowd took the streets, and yes.
How many cities today participated?
250 plus.
Yes.
That's what I thought, and I just wanted to make
And
sure.
I believe it was upwards of 15 countries.
Yes.
Wow.
I did know that.
How many continents?
I don't know.
Actually, I do 3. We had 3 continents. We had
3 out of 7.
Europe, Asia, and America.
Yes.
The Penguins need to get on it, man.
I was gonna say I'm not really
the thing
expecting
is
that
they've already
much
they've already
Antarctica,
banned
but-
most of the GMOs out of South America except for Argentina and Brazil, and they're working on getting rid of those.
You know, interesting thing that I had forgotten about that was pointed out at the rally today was, how would you like to try to grow a garden in New Zealand?
I would like to try to do anything in New Zealand. Okay.
Now, for our listeners who don't know, let's suppose you want to go grow you some tomatoes. You think that can happen here? Well, of course it can. Do you think it can happen in New Zealand?
No, it most certainly cannot. Because that is vice, that is criminality, that is
Ooh.
evil, that is
Ew.
illegal, and
Wow.
Officer Friendly
Grandma's-
will arrest you.
Grandma's heirloom tomatoes, what would they do? Come pull them up out of the ground?
Presumably, yes, after they carried you away in chains.
Oh. Well, since I have so much experience in that,
These tomatoes be contraband.
yeah, well, maybe I
Oh,
should
so
move to
they-
New Zealand since I'm used to being carried away in chains. You know, that's all I can think of.
Yeah.
You do know there's a Food Safety Protection Act under some nefarious name, and this country was passed in 2007 or something like that, where you're
Yeah.
not allowed to transfer food privately, which means if you grow your heirloom tomatoes, you can't give them to your mom legally anymore.
Yeah,
Try to enforce that one. Try to enforce
Well,
that
actually,
one.
they
Yeah.
have.
Well, they don't try to enforce it,
Really?
it's just handy to have
You're
it on the
kidding.
books.
They have
already.
tried with the co-ops. A lot of the cooperative growers that are out there in the upper Midwest, as well as
Listeners, let me tell you,
Northwest.
this is why we rail. This is why we occupy, because of this bullshit.
Yes, I know.
These kinds of draconian crap, corporations to try to take over your life. You know, if you don't get involved and you sit at home and watch Dancing with the Stars, you're going to guarantee you're going to get more of this.
Well, that's the idea is, it's not so much that they can forbid you from giving your grandmom some tomatoes. The idea is to have these kind of restrictions on the books.
Of course.
When they decide en masse to go ahead and control the food supplies, they already have the mechanisms in
Again,
place.
I will
to
use
do
a
so.
Nazi reference. A lot of the things they did in Nazi Germany were quote-unquote legal because they passed the laws.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it right.
Yes.
And I should mention too, they're working on privatizing water right now too.
Yes,
All
Ne-
water,
yes,
including rainwater.
Nestle Corp and a few others have actually tried and actually have passed in many cases. Bolivia actually had to kick out Nestle Corp.
West of Oklahoma, you can't have the water rights or mineral rights to your land.
May I speak
Can't
to that?
have it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bolivia, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bolivia, the water utility used to be socialized, publicly owned, and Betchel, I believe it was,
Yeah.
came in, and they and to be fair, it was rather inefficient. It didn't work very well, and they said, "We will save you. We will come in. We will privatize the water," and they did. And when they did that, they made it illegal to put a bowl outside your little house in the Bolivian wilderness to collect rainwater, and people were arrested for this.
Yeah.
People
Yes.
were beaten for this, and all in the name of private enterprise. And what ended up having to happen was people freaking revolted, and when they revolted, when they took to the streets, they called in the police and they called in the Bolivian army. Betchel did, but the people defeated the police,
Yeah.
and the people defeated the army, and now it's legal to gather rainwater in Bolivia again. Isn't it amazing?
Oh yes, considering the fact that Evo Morales was the one who actually signed into law that Mother Earth has rights.
There are actually cases in the U.S. of people being arrested
Yes.
for collecting rainwater.
Colorado and Wyoming.
Yes, they're so protective of water that out west that there's a rumor in California that there's a law that if you stand on the street corner and sweat and you try to collect that sweat, you're going to jail.
Yeah, that's the crazy rumor. I hope that's the crazy
I hope
rumor.
that's the crazy rumor.
Well, it sounds like a crazy rumor, but you get your news on the internet, and occasionally you'll see an article from the Onion or the Daily Current, and you think it's real because of how crazy.
Because it sounds
is.
so
It
plausible.
sounds plausible in the current political environment. It's it's crazy. It's completely insane.
It's part of the corporate chaos that they rely on.
Well,
Oh, by the way, speaking of satire news, do you know we have one here in Little Rock now?
Yes!
Called Rock City Times, and they got me the other day. They
Rock
did.
City Times
Rock
got
City
you?
Times. It's
The
Little Rock area specifically. I can't remember what
The
headline.
headline was, man lost for 3 years trying to find the cafeteria at UAMS is finally found.
Yeah, it was an article about how they found this guy camped out in the basement because he'd gotten lost trying to get his wife some ice chips or something when she was in labor.
We thought he just went home.
At first they actually had me, but then I was like, no, this can't be real, and I started looking into it. But yes, we have one here now, and it's hysterical.
Well, we also
thank
have
you.
Forbidden
I gotta move
Yes.
on. I'd love to
Yeah.
talk about this
Let's go
more. But a segue from draconian laws is a quick update I'm going to give on Adam Kokesh. For those of you who don't know who he is, he's a guy that has a program that's called Adam versus the Man. He was on MSNBC, I believe, for a while as a program, and I believe RT did some stuff with him, and then he migrated to his own stuff, to what he does. He went to a rally last week, a 420 rally in Philadelphia
Yeah.
to
I heard about
speak.
this.
Okay? He shows up, he does not have, for those of you who don't know, a 420 rally is about marijuana rights. Okay? So he shows up, and he's attended 4 or 5 of these in Philadelphia before. It's close to where he lives. He went over there. And they got there, and they could see the setup. And they's like, I think we're going to have trouble. And so he didn't have anything on him. He wasn't doing anything. He spoke like they asked him to speak. And he was surrounded by a whole bunch of people, and he was in the middle of them with a microphone speaking. And he did the countdown for the 420 so they could light up. And the moment he got started his countdown and got to the last 3, 2, 1, here comes a bunch of federalized police officers on federal property showing up. These weren't federal officers, they were federal officers in the sense they were deputized. Come running at him to arrest him. And he's not doing anything. They ran past people who had just lit up giant blunts. Okay?
Yes.
I'm serious. It's all on video.
Yeah,
There's like
The
I
arrest the
saw
guy
the video.
that timed it.
and yes, and he timed it, and they ran in, and he threw his hands up, and he had a microphone in his hand, and he threw his hands up, and the guy tried to tackle him, and they charged him with resisting arrest. And in the complaint, it came out from the prosecutor days later. I can't make this up. They
I saw
said
the
because
video,
the
yeah.
people who were standing around him had their arms locked, that caused them to charge him with resisting arrest.
Oh man,
I'm
that's
not
the biggest
kidding.
bunch
This is
of
from a
BS.
federal prosecutor, and they threw him in jail, and they wouldn't even let anybody know where he was. And he
Yeah.
just got out Thursday, and he was in jail since the 20th, the 420 rally, which was last Friday or whatever that was, last Saturday. That's how long he was in jail for this, for
Yeah.
all these bogus charges. Now, you say, well, how did he get so famous that the feds came after him? It's because Adam Kokesh is the gentleman who's an ex-Marine who served in Iraq and was in on Fallujah and so forth. And he has spoken out against the military now that he's out.
He's also the one who also did the
Right, he's gonna do the-
waterboarding torture.
Right.
And he ended up challenging what's his name, Sean Hannity, to be waterboarded,
Right,
saying that
and
it's
he's
not
also
torture.
the
That's
one that
brilliant.
July 4th has called for an armed march in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
2 years ago, the Supreme Court said it's okay, you can have guns in D.C.
Yeah.
Nobody's challenged that.
No.
They're still trying to enforce that crap. So he said, okay, I'm going to get together a bunch of my buddies, and we're going to load up some shotguns and rifles and sling them over our backs so that they're not next to our hands. We don't want to go and fire on anybody, but we're going to exercise our right to be armed and own firearms and be in the nation's capital
Well, let me
on
get-
July 4th.
Let me get this straight. He's
Yes.
planning on doing an armed march
Yes,
with his hands nowhere near the guns.
that's correct.
And
Slung
the feds
over
have
their back.
already proved that other people's arms simply linked together is enough to arrest you on. Makes
Yeah.
all kinds of
Well,
sense.
yeah,
There's a large overreach legally going on in this country.
really
It's-
large.
We've had a congressman here lately that's proposed, and the amendment didn't make it out of committee, but proposed that people who are kin
Yeah, I saw that.
to convicted terrorists should
Oh,
be thrown in jail for
And
having
held without
for
trial.
having contaminated blood.
they're
here in
taking-
our own state,
Yeah.
and I had no idea this is going. I've lived out of state for many years and came back in 2007, but I noticed that if your buddy steals something and you guys run and the cops chase you, the cops chase your buddy the cops shoot and kill the buddy that stole something.
You can still sue.
You get accused of capital murder
That's
because
It's
a
called guilt by association.
death occurred during the felony.
Our law student wants to speak.
Not too close. to
Not
Mike.
too- not too
Just
close.
let it
We discussed this in criminal law, second semester of my first year. That is actually the felony murder rule, and it doesn't just apply to murders. It applies to
Any felony.
any felony. If someone dies in the commission of a felony, then if you participated in that felony, then you are liable. And not only will you be charged with the felony that you were party to, you will also be charged with homicide. Now, we read some of the case law on this, and the general consensus, from what I can tell, seems to be that that only applies to violent felonies. Like, mail fraud is a felony. So, if I want to take my neighbor, if I get mad at my neighbor because his dog won't shut the hell up at night, and I decide to take his mail and throw it down a storm drain, but I slip on an acorn and fall and bust my head open, the guy who's going to do it with me won't go to prison for mail fraud, but any violent felony, like robbery, anything like that, if somebody dies in the course of it, even if you didn't fire a shot, even if you didn't do anything.
Well,
You
my
would
problem
get murdered.
is, first of all, is the cops shooting somebody that's running is not in the course of the crime. It's in the course of fleeing the scene. That's really stretching a point, and it openly gives the cops the right to just blow somebody away and say, kill him too.
Well, the thing is they've been actually working this angle, the guilt by association and lethal restraint, for well over 40 years. Greg and I both understand that lethal restraint has been tested in movies as well as in public since the 70s. I seem to remember there were a lot of cases that went through New York, through LA, through Seattle, where they were always trying to say that there was justified lethal restraint.
I have a question for Caleb. When you were going over these case studies and you found people who, were part of a felony and then charged with someone else's murder during the course of that felony, did any of them receive the death penalty over that murder charge?
Yes.
I have slept and had beers
Since then,
since my first year of law school, but they don't whenever you read cases for law school, you never read the sentencing, because that's an entirely different that's an entirely different thing. What goes to the appellate courts is always a matter of law. It's not something that you talk about with fact finding, and it's not sentencing. If the person was gonna challenge their sentence, that would be an entirely different appeal probably. But I can't think of anyone who got the death penalty, but I can think of people who got life sentences for that. I could be wrong, but again, I've slept and had beer since then. So.
David Gale was the only one who actually kept any records on what they called miscarriage of justice sentencing. And unfortunately, because Texas decided to execute him under a rather surreptitious and rather questionable court case, all of David Gale's files, as far as what they call the unfair sentencing practices, have all been destroyed. So unfortunately, we're going to have to start this process all over again.
I just can't see the rationale of the cops being able to kill one person and then charge another person with that murder.
Yeah,
That just simply doesn't make any sense. I don't care how you legally manipulate it. The cops need to be reviewed when they kill somebody.
No, actually what it is it's actually written into a lot of the state laws now. Guilt by association is not constitutional. And guilt by association,
That's not even common sense.
But most states have to be very clear on their guilt by association and in their writing of the law. Otherwise, it does bear towards the unconstitutionality of guilt by association.
Well, here's the perfect example. You got two cops, and they're riding together. And then they go out, and one of the cops gets pissed and he kills the other guy. Is the second cop going to be charged with guilt by association? Hell no, he's not.
And the reason for that
Yeah.
Yes.
is, what do they call it? Qualified immunity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where,
And that's where we get into trouble, is the qualified immunity. We do not actually have, we have not had a serious review of qualified immunity of whether officials and or what they call witnesses. And even so, we are still kind of stuck in a very much a confused law neverland that really doesn't necessarily get seriously discussed. But we're running low on time here, so
We are. We got some other things to get to, but you know, I wanted to bring up the Adam thing just to show that it, you know, NDAA is alive and well, because they very well had intended, with a lot of people thinking that they intended to enforce the NDAA thing on this. Enough people raised hell about, and there was so much videotape showing he didn't do a damn thing.
Yeah.
Had this
Video
not been
evidence,
on video, he'd still be
Yeah.
in jail.
Yes.
You can bet.
Use your
Because they do
phones.
not want the controversy
Right.
of this armed march on July 4th.
And that's why so many states are trying to pass laws that make it illegal for you to videotake police in public.
That's right.
why they're doing it.
That's unconstitutional.
That
You
won't
got-
fly in
They
this
are
state,
a
I
public
promise.
official, and they are performing a public duty. You have
They'll never
every
get that
right
in this
to
state.
photograph.
Right,
Other
and if they
states
do
they
it
won't.
here, I can guarantee you that they will not stop me from recording what they're doing.
Yeah, the Patriot Act did not stop us from being able to actually film crime in progress, which is also the same reason why they put dash cams in patrol cars.
I'm going to give
to
Caleb the
videotape
last
it.
word on this, Caleb. You're supposed to
as far
say
as
the last word.
the last word.
There you go. Okay. Set them up for the jokes. I got baby neophyte comedians in here. I gotta
You got occupiers, man. We're going any
Okay.
different
Go ahead,
directions.
seriously, go ahead.
But seriously, folks, I'll be here all week.
There you go.
My personal feeling on Kokesh's march is this. I understand what he's trying to do. I think, given all the stuff he's done over the past few years, he's a pretty courageous dude, and he's definitely on the right side of things. But if I were an agent provocateur working for nefarious parties, and
That would be the easiest march to
that's
hit.
what I'm going to call it. Because all I would do is go in there and fire off a few rounds, and then all hell would break loose. And there you go. The rest is history.
And
Well,
that's something
the-
you do have to pay attention to when you're setting up
Yeah.
any kind of march, is how can it go wrong?
I
I'm
just-
going to pull a mulligan here as the host and say exactly that was our problem in Occupy Little Rock, was having another really big march. How are we going to police our own march,
Right.
knowing that people would come in, start trouble just to make us look
Yeah.
bad?
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
yeah,
Same problem.
yeah, and you're right. What I was going to say is, he could have had that all solved if he would have said and done a Minuteman muzzleloader march, which is what they did back in 1972, and they got it done. It was not reported as widely, but it did report. They did report it on the 17th page of
I don't know
Washington
how many
Post.
thousands of people
Was
were
that also for gun rights for DC residents, or was that for something else?
It was actually, the thing is what they didn't tell the parade organizers is the fact that those muzzleloaders that they had for the Minuteman March for the Memorial, 1972 was a Memorial March. They had 500 people with muzzleloaders, replica muzzleloaders that were loaded. They didn't tell the organizers, and they marched with fully loaded muzzleloaders through downtown D.C. This is before 1976,
Well,
1776.
we got four other things to get to,
Yeah.
but I want to go around the room. I think this is very important,
Okay.
and ask you to answer yes or no.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll jump on another subject. Do you think that with the atmosphere in our country right now, considering the political atmosphere, that we're so highly charged that we're sitting on another 10th state? Yes or
No.
no? Okay, Mel?
Yes.
Okay, Kaitlin?
Yes.
Kaitlin?
Yes.
Crystal?
What was the question?
Yes or
Do
no?
you think we're sitting on another 10th state?
With this march?
With the atmosphere in this country right now?
We're getting pretty close. I'm not how sure just how close.
I'm going to be on the yes side. and I thought about this quite a bit last night before I went to bed. It was the thing that was on my mind, and I wanted to go to sleep. I needed to go to sleep, but all I could do was think about this before I went to sleep. It was like, we're so right politically for something like that to happen again. And what a shame. It's like, wait a minute. Are we still 40 years past this, we still are going to shoot American citizens with our own guns from our own military? Really?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. That's progress, folks, let me tell you.
I want to point out one thing. Chip on the shoulder. Do you knock it off or do you leave it on?
Now that's a little esoteric. Could you break that down to layman's terms?
Okay, basically, no, the
You know what
media's
we're going
setting
to do?
us
We're
up.
going to involve the audience.
Yes.
You at home,
Please call
think
in.
about that for a week.
Yeah.
Because that's a very challenging question. Think about it for a week and then call us next week and tell us what the answer is.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right. Now, a quick AIM update is from Trey Weir, and he tells me that they are shooting for 2016 to be the ballot, when they're going to go on the ballot with their Equal Merit Initiative. And there are, bless you, and there are some other nuances and stuff, but I told him to come on the radio station and explain this. I told him I was not going to do his job for him. So,
he took the lead on this, and he really does.
yeah,
He's doing
he
a
knows,
fantastic
stuff,
job.
And in the next couple of weeks, while I'm gone, Chris is going to host.
I hope
by
I
the way.
can get him.
And Kaitlin's going to host and stuff and everything. So, and thank you for doing everything. I appreciate it. Everybody appreciates it. But Trey, we need to get him on there in the next couple of weeks.
Also, I believe the Gay Pride Parade for Conway is coming up, and AIM is involved in that as well.
Yes,
That should be in June.
I think it's June 2nd.
Okay, a couple of quick things. The Our Daily Outrage podcast with Allie Taylor, who is one of the organizers from Monsanto today. She's the co-president of NOW, and her fiance, comedian Michael Brown, have now started a podcast. And so their podcast, if you look it up, I don't have the website written down, and I sincerely apologize. I just failed to do that. I can't even believe that. But if you Google Our Daily Outrage podcast, you'll find it there. And they've had 3 episodes. And their stuff is hilarious and informative. And it comes with a 17-star review out of 5 possible stars from Occupy the Rock Radio, and those of us who have listened to it. So, I want to give them another. I would tell you, it's awesome stuff. You need to. It's about 30-35 minutes. This last one ran a little longer, but believe me, it went by so fast when you listen to it. And it's something great to put on and listen to and download while you're doing dishes or the laundry or whatever, that sort of thing that we do in our busy lives. And stuff. So I wanted to give them a quick shout out. The last thing I kind of want to talk about, and then if we have a little time we can open it up to anything else, is the Free and Equal update. Now, I've been passing out flyers all weekend at Riverfest and stuff about the concert that's coming up June 22nd at Verizon Arena. Now, we will probably have some of the principals involved on this radio show coming up prior to the event. I'm looking to take some interviews with like Jesse Ventura and things that are going to be at the thing, and some of the musicians that may be in town early for that Saturday that we might be able to get some things taped for this show. Obviously, I'll be that Saturday at Verizon Arena, and everybody or whoever hosts this show won't be there either until after the show as far as that goes. But we're going to have some more things coming up about this. And Tom Morello called us and said he's 95% sure that he will be able to come and perform and speak at this as well. If you go to UnitedWeStandFest.com, that's UnitedWeStandFest.com, you will find the website for the material. You can look for us down at Riverfest as well, passing out the flyers, which have a discount coupon attached to them. If you take that coupon directly to Verizon Arena, you can get either $10 or $20 off of your ticket if you buy it directly from the thing. That skips Ticketmaster. Woo, yes, Ticketmaster. And it skips all their crud that they tack onto it if you take this coupon and go down there to Verizon. It helps everybody out. the ticket prices range from $25 to $87.50. So if you take a $87.50 ticket and you go get the $20 off, you can get in the first 5 rows for $67.50.
Yeah.
Really? That's cheap. And the second thing is, the list on the flyer is $110 is the top ticket price. Well, yeah, that's if you buy the $87.50 ticket and then buy it online and get all the incurred charges. It winds up being $110. So you can save $50 by taking this coupon and down to Verizon Arena by June 10th and buying a ticket. So, all right. Now we skipped one little quick thing, and I want Kaitlin. I'm sorry, I just realized that the city of Little Rock. Can you do in 1 minute?
Oh, geez, probably not.
Just give us the highlights in 1 minute of how you think the city board
It's
did.
not what I was going to cover, but sure.
Well,
City
you cover
board,
the other when you're done. Okay.
The city board was talking about the street and drainage stuff.
Right.
They said they were going to go back out into the neighborhoods and have a discussion again
And they
with
didn't.
proposed lists. They did not. 3 of us brought that up at the meeting. They said we went out and got site suggestions several times, which of course is not the meeting we were talking about. They would not let us correct or clarify that and went ahead and voted for it anyway. So sorry, Little Rock, the decision's been made for you.
Yeah, they kind of screwed us over on that.
Yeah, they did.
Hence the peace.
Last thing I have is more environmental news real quick. Fort Smith is going through some stuff right now. For the last, I believe, 2 or 3 decades, Whirlpool was a major employer there.
Yeah.
They moved out several years ago when they started outsourcing their jobs. And then in 2010, started backing a measure that would make keep people from drilling wells in that area. And then we discover it's because there was a giant refrigerant leak into the groundwater in Fort Smith. Aaron Brockovich is already actually on board with
I
this.
know.
That's right.
I know.
Brockovich.
Actually,
Yeah.
I do know. Yeah, my
Yeah,
bad.
they-
I do.
that law firm-
Flashback. Yeah,
That law firm has gotten involved there. I've
Yes.
been reading up more and more of that and been keeping an eye on it. I'll have more next time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Whirlpool has had its run-ins before.
Well, all I was going to say about the city board thing and stuff is I understand about the clarification. It's just, we went and got quote-unquote suggestions, okay? Well, that's not the same thing as going and having a meeting
Yeah,
amongst
they
the
didn't.
thing.
Yeah, they did not. They came and got suggestions, and then they brought their list of this is what we plan on doing out one time. They said they would do it 2 or 3 times in each ward. They did not. They went out once, got the opinions, and went forward with it. They did remove some things. They did move some things around, but no, they didn't. No, they didn't do what they said they were going to do.
So, well, we need to wrap this up. We've got folks out here in the hall that we need to wave in. There's new folks coming in.
I did want to say after
Yeah,
Chris
please, go ahead.
characterized the board as a bunch of monkeys earlier, I was quite offended on behalf, of course, of the monkeys.
Yeah, the monkeys are having a problem with that.
I'm sure that they function a lot better than our board right now.
Meaning no disrespect to the noble creature, the monkey.
We had Chris and Mel and Kaitlin and Caleb and Crystal and myself, Greg Deckelman, on this show today. And if you like what you hear, go to the website, the Facebook page. Tell us you like what you hear. If there's something you want on the show, that's fine. I'm going to be absent for a couple of weeks. I got some gigs out of town. Chris is going to take over and stuff. Caleb's going to help.
Try to take over.
Try to, other occupiers that you know of yourself, please bring yourself in here. You're welcome on this program as well. I want to thank you. And you're listening to KABF 88.3 in Little Rock, Arkansas. The voice of the people, not the sheeple.